Welcome to Beyond the Stethoscope, the podcast for veterinarians, healthcare providers, and busy professionals who want actionable, implementable solutions surrounding work-life balance, accomplishing your goals, and living your dreams. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Demery.
So some of you might be asking what's next for the Beyond the Stethoscope podcast. I really want to tackle this question this week because I know we've been a little MIA for the last month or so. So last year in 2021, that was a learning year. We tested so many different and innovative things to see what would resonate with y'all and what would serve you the best. So we are going back to our pre-recorded weekly episodes, and we're working towards both video and audio options. And we are hiring an editor right now to help us be more consistent while we continue to build the business. So lots of exciting and fun things over here behind the scenes at Beyond the Stethoscope. Last year, you may recall, we tested doing live webinars so you could become a member of the audience and interact with our guests. Well, that didn't quite work out as well as I had hoped, but it was a really fun experiment to try. And if you absolutely loved it and want to continue to participate in live episodes and be able to interact with our guests, please send an email to Angela at pawsconsulting.com, PAWS consulting.com, and let me know because we can always bring it back. Again, apologies for being MIA for the month of February. It was one of those situations where, well, perhaps we could argue that I didn't take my own advice. Many of you might be familiar with our 5-minute decision framework, one of my most favorite and popular topics to discuss. And you can download your own copy and your own framework worksheet at pawsconsulting.com, PAWS consulting.com /5 MIN decision. So it's /5 MIN decision. So it's 5 questions that I can ask myself and decide which opportunities to pursue and which to say no to. So basically it's a logic tree. If answer to question number 1 is yes, then we go to the next question and so on and so forth. And if the answer is no, then it's not an opportunity for me right now. And I need to say no to it. Well, that last question, for those of you who know this framework, is can I do this new opportunity and everything else on my plate with excellence? And at the time, the answer was yes. It turned into a no, but I continued on with and took this opportunity anyway. So why? Why did I do that? You might be wondering. Well, some opportunities are bigger and have more importance, and we might have to fail on something else or maybe struggle a bit to get to that next level and make our dreams become a reality. So for me, I hope someday to become a motivational speaker, to be on that big stage, motivating thousands. So when I was asked to present for 4 hours on wellness and high performance to an audience of a few hundred of my veterinary colleagues, I was so excited and honored, and I absolutely could do that and everything else on my plate with excellence. So I said yes. Finally, an in-person event after 2 years of interacting in a virtual setting. So as that weekend in February drew near, it became unclear if it would become another virtual event. And oh, by the way, can you now present for 8 hours instead of 4? Sure. I had 4 hours of amazing content that I had honed over the past 2 years by training thousands of veterinary professionals. But I didn't yet have 8 hours. So I dusted off my keynote speech that had not been used because we were all in lockdown. And I had experience motivating and inspiring on stage, but never in a virtual setting. So of course I set it aside during the pandemic, which in retrospect, maybe I should have leaned into that a little bit more, right? Sometimes we have to lean into what's uncomfortable. Maybe you have a goal or a dream and you're resonating with some of this right now too. It turned out I had this really tight 12-minute TED Talk style talk It was on the power of showing up and following through. Ironic, right? Just when we all need to show up and follow through. So I started with that. Through my years on the campaign trail, I knew that first encounter, the first impression, that would make or break the entire day's worth of continuing education for this audience. It wasn't hard science, right? It was leadership skills. And CE on these topics can be limited. You can be limited in your state as to how many hours of these leadership skills that you can apply towards your license renewal. Crazy, right? So for the last 2 years, we've been engaging only through the computer lens in my living room that I set up to become a makeshift TV studio, right? And then, all the doubt set in. Was I physically fit enough to engage an audience for 8 hours? And oh, by the way, can we live stream it too? Because maybe not everyone, now that we had this Omicron variant with the pandemic, could be in person or would feel comfortable being in person. So of course I said yes, right? So here we are. I was at this crossroads in January of this year. I could have let the fear and the doubt derail me, but instead I asked the hard question: what can I stop doing, even just temporarily, to move this big goal, project, or dream forward? And these are really tough, gut-wrenching decisions that every successful person, entrepreneur, professional, Olympian, mom, or dad has had to make at some point in your lives. And these aren't easy decisions. But when you have a dream that's bigger than you are and that is grounded in values of service and integrity, you hope that your supporters, your listeners, and your friends can find it in their hearts to understand and forgive, especially when you didn't share what was happening on the front end. And for that, I'm truly sorry. So please accept my sincerest apologies for going MIA while I worked through my fears, my doubts, and my limitations. And it happens to all of us. None of us are immune to these feelings or these emotions. None of us are perfect. Not even us high performance coaches. So let me ask you, are you quitting on your dream too soon? Is there a dream or a goal or a project that you really desperately want to move forward, but it's not moving as quickly as you'd like? Or you're finding that your fears and your doubts are getting in your way, and instead of moving forward, you're procrastinating, finding distractions, or wondering where all the time in the day is going. And with all the uncertainty in the world today, it's easy to get caught up in the fear, the frustration, and even have an attitude of why bother? But it's important to remember that each and every action is like a pebble cast into the water. The ripple effect may be far greater than you can see or even imagine. At some point, the circles from that pebble, they become imperceptible. You assume the wave it created continues on because we know physics. However, we can no longer see it. But it doesn't mean you aren't having an impact. It's okay if you need to take some time out to regroup, reorganize, and regain that clarity around what it is you are trying to accomplish. But don't quit. I have interviewed some of the most successful people on the Beyond the Stethoscope podcast. For example, we've interviewed one of the co-founders of Jane VC, which is now January VC, a venture capital firm designed to support women and change the status quo in the startup world. Everyone from someone like Jennifer to the dentist who invented the Zoom whitening system and was on the Extreme Makeover TV series, to the CEO of the famous firm that the film Jerry Maguire was inspired by. And I spent some time really wondering and thinking, what is the one thing that every successful person has in common? What's made them successful? I even asked them that during the interviews. They aren't necessarily the smartest or the most creative or the most influential or the richest, especially not when they started, but they do this one simple thing. And I know you can do it too, because you are listening to this podcast right now. Are you ready for the number one secret of the most successful people? They show up and they follow through. That's it. If we wanted to say there's a third, number 1, show up. Number 2, follow through. And number 3, have a learning mindset. That's it. And they do it every day. Are they perfect? No, but they show up. So how will you show up for yourself today? How will you show up for yourself tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? You've got this. Now that you know, the secret of the most successful people is that they show up and they follow through and they're willing to learn. You've got it. So let's go show up and improve the world around us in some meaningful way today. And I would love to hear how you are doing it. So please, please, please send me a note. Let me know how you are adding value into the world today. My email again is angela@pawsconsulting.com, and I cannot wait to hear from you.
That's all the time we have for this week's episode of Beyond the Stethoscope. I hope you are inspired to take actionable steps towards accomplishing your goals and living your dreams. Chances are, if you are listening to this podcast, you are a busy professional who is looking to reclaim your time, energy, and focus to be your best, most productive, and highest performing self. As a high performance coach, I help busy professionals like you gain clarity, energy, and courage to take actionable steps towards accomplishing their goals and living their dreams. If this sounds like you and you want to work with me, I only have 3 openings still available for high performance coaching, and I have decided to offer them exclusively to listeners of this podcast. Simply go to pawsconsulting.com/podcast to apply. And let's see if I'm the right person to help you not only accomplish your goals, but also live the life of your dreams. Let's make your best year yet.